Good day, YouTube, and welcome to another Heart to Heart episode. So, recently I did start some therapy again. As a lot of you know, I do suffer from borderline personality disorder. I do have major depressive disorder, and there are a few other things that they think are going on in there. Um, I thought, we've talked about a lot of different things over the past, and starting with therapy again, I thought, and the reason I got into therapy again, I thought, hey, let's actually touch onto things more so than before. There might be some trigger warnings in there for people that have suffered from things before, so just a forewarning about that. So it was a couple of years ago that, for the most part, I hit rock bottom, and every day of my life was the same. I would uh, I would come home from work. I would sit downstairs in the basement with a knife in my hand and try to use it. I was never a cutter. I never was ever. The two times I attempted suicide, it wasn't with a knife, but it was that time where I had moved on from what I was doing to where I was thinking I had to go. I didn't have a gun, or I would probably be saying I was sitting there with a gun in my mouth. But what brought me to that? Well, everybody always wants to know how you ended up being what you were, how you ended up falling into the route you were in. A lot of us have different stories and all that. So hey, let's go into it, right? I was beat almost daily growing up from different men that my mother was with. My mother had been married. What was it? It was my dad, Cody's dad, Kyle's dad. There was Wayne. There was Fritz. There was Al. So by the time I left, she had been married 7 times. She had married a few times after I left. Uh, each man, other than my father, had, and my father hadn't, mostly probably because either I don't remember it because I was too young, or he left while I was too young to have done anything to deserve it. But every one of those men were drunks. Even my dad, I can't deny it. My dad was a drunk at the time. But all 6 of the other men beat me, beat my brothers. It, and we're not talking, a spank on the bum type of thing when you were bad. No, we were talking actual physical abuse. Mental abuse the entire time too, being told from the day you can remember things until the day you got out of that house that you're disgusting, you're different, you're not going to amount to anything. No woman's going to want you because you're visibly different. Um, you're never going to be able to please a woman. You're never going to be able to raise a family. You're never going to be able to do this. Albino this. I'll blind that. Blah, blah, blah. So between physical and mental abuse, there was also the emotional abuse. The My mother, I am almost 100% positive my mother has BPD like I do, though I'm also almost 100% positive she has the manipulative form of it. Because manipulation was her skill, it was her strong point, and sorry if the sound's poor. I don't know if it's just that I was talking lower. We'll see how it goes. I don't know if again. Well, so that was her strong point. She manipulated everybody to feel bad for her all the time. I mean, you would be told quite often. Every one of us, if a man left her at any time, it was our fault. It was her kids' faults for this. It was her kids' fault for that. So I mean, you were manipulated into staying as well. And I mean, she was good at that. I mean, every time I would go to leave, because I ran away a few times, and she'd find out where I was, and I was old enough to emancipate myself, but I didn't emancipate myself because I would get coerced into coming back just to have shit befall me again. Once I hit 18 and I should have left on my own, I didn't. I stayed, and while I stayed, I was basically extorted. I was paying over $600 a month in rent to live with my mother. That was fun. So I mean, that all that stuff led up to the depression and the BPD. The BPD happened because my whole life I was told my whole life I was beat, and I was told that I would never amount to anything and I would never be able to make anyone happy and all that. I fell in love with a girl while I was in high school. Didn't say anything to her because again I was led to believe that, hey, I am the worst thing in the world, so why say anything? So I watched from afar. Things happened. We left. We went our separate ways. She went to Thunder Bay. I came down to the Niagara region. I came down to the Niagara region to wrestle for Brock, uh, and get as far away from my mother as I could. Uh, Up until then, I tried to get outlets to find things, get outlets to do things. I was a wrestler. I was a rugby player. I was a football player. I did the Highland Games. I did the strongman. I spent a lot of time in weight rooms, um, and that was all to try and build a physical shell to to fight off the mental anguish, the emotional anguish, and I mean, even though I was popular because of the things I did, I didn't escape doing those things. Didn't escape the torment from home because there was the torment at school. Because again, visibly different, legally blind, no pigment, and it's not anything that was all that bad. You got made fun of in high school. You got made fun of in elementary school. But when you take that and you get made fun of all the time at high school and elementary school, all when you're getting made fun of and stared at every single time you're out in public, and then when you're in private with your own family, the same things are happening. You don't really have that ability to build up the skin. You don't have the ability to do anything because you're going in your own mind as a child. You're going, shit. Everything that was said to me as a child was right. Um, so I mean, shit like that, right? So yeah, though I was wrestling, though I was rugby, though I was football, all that stuff, it didn't help me escape. I was doing it to escape. Started a band. If you ever listen to the lyrics and a lot of the songs I wrote, they were all fairly dark. Like I go back and I listen to them now. I go back and I listen to them now, 18 years later, and fuck, were they dark. High school, I attempted my first suicide. I attempted it with alcohol. Um, Told everybody I was just drinking a lot. I drank 326ers of Smirnoff vodka. I was purposely trying to kill myself. I drank those 326ers in about 30 minutes because I knew that in 30 minutes my body wouldn't have rejected it yet. I woke up in the hospital with being pumped, catheter up my penis and all that, getting pumped. Second time I did it, second time I attempted was pills. Again, I wasn't a cutter. I wasn't anything like that. Um, Apparently, I wasn't very good at math because I wasn't able to do the my body size to what I was doing. Um, they weren't cries for help. They were legitimate. I wanted to be gone. And apparently, with the alcohol, if I had a few more swigs, I would have been gone. Apparently, with the pills, I was 3 pills off. Um, it is what it is. Went to university. Went to university. Was fucked in the head the entire time I was in university. Well, I was fucked in the head from the time I was 15 on. But I was there. I didn't know what to expect, what to do, and it was what it was. I met a girl, and she gave me a little bit of attention, and I latched on to her. I married her. I had children with her. 14 years later, I can tell you, in 2 years of high end therapy, I never had feelings for her, ever. I married her, I stayed with her because she showed me any type of attention. A lot of you would have seen her on video. A lot of people have seen our interactions on video. I wasn't a happy man. She wasn't a happy woman. We both had our problems. We both stayed together for the wrong reasons. Um, when she left, I decided to get the help I needed. While I was with her, I had asked a few times for help, and I was told I was throwing a pity party. I had explained my whole story to her. She knew a lot of it to go into it, but I explained everything to her. And it was, oh, you're a pity party this, you're a pity party that. So I gave up then too. I was trying to crawl out of that basement, and I gave up then as well. And I gave up then as well because of that, because the woman that I had married, that I had thought was going to be the person that would support me, wasn't there to support me. Uh, the beer review really started. The beer review really started to get away from her, to get away from my life. I spent a lot of time editing videos. I spent a lot of time traveling to breweries. I spent a lot of time answering comments online. I spent a lot of time doing a lot of things just to stay away from the family. As I had kids and I didn't know how to be a father because all I knew was being beat, uh, I would pull away from them. I lost a lot of good, formidable years with my children, and even while I was watching myself do it, I was filling myself with shame and guilt because I didn't want to do that, but I didn't know. I didn't have the ability, shall we say, to not do it. Uh, I shut down into a shell. The only time I really came out and was myself was when I was on here. Um, Nobody really knew the real me. Some of you guys probably knew the real me, but nobody really around me knew the real me. Nobody knew what I was going through. Nobody knew what I was hiding. Uh, other than Christy and my grandmother, nobody had known that I had legitimately attempted suicide twice. Other than my grandmother, nobody knew that for 2 years I sat in a basement with a knife trying to just end it. And I couldn't because of the kids. I remember one quote in one psychology book that I was reading, which was, "We can fix anything except for the children of suicidal parent," and that was the only thing that kept me around. Each time I sat down there, I would end up going, "No, I have to do better for my children. I don't want them to have the same life I had. I don't want this cycle to continue." I'd put it down. I'd go back upstairs. I'd go to bed, and I would wake up, and nothing had changed. Nothing could change because I wasn't doing the work I needed to do to change it. I wasn't doing the things I needed to do to change it. I didn't feel the support, and I didn't feel the urge and urgency at the time. I was lost. I didn't know what to do. And that stayed again until she left. The second she left, it was like a weight was off my shoulders. I tried. I tried for years to push her away. Did full on BPD. Get the hell away from me. You leave now before you leave me. Like, I want you to leave on my accord, not your own. And I mean, with BPD, you do have a fear of being alone, and I think that really was the only reason I stayed, between the kids and the fear of being alone and never finding anybody else again, especially because of how I was raised and what I was told while I was raised. I stuck it through for 14 years. I stuck through in that relationship. That really wasn't a relationship. I look back at pictures now and I'm like, wow. I look back at how my life had spiraled from bad to I'm at the bottom, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I let that happen. Um, and this isn't anything against her. Neither of us are innocent in our relationship, even though she would like to say she's completely innocent and I'm the horrible, horrible man. Neither of us are innocent in what happened in our relationship. But that being said, I wish her the best. She is the mother of my children, regardless, and I hope she finds the happiness that every single person deserves, no matter what. You deserve happiness. So we broke up. I started going to cognitive behavioral therapy courses. I started doing just PTSD therapy, doing phone therapy. I had members of Coast come out to the house all the time. I had the urgent care team have a mental health nurse come to the house once a week. And I started dialectical behavioral therapy, which is the only true treatment for borderline personality disorder. I also was on a plethora of meds as they were trying to even out the depression. So, with all that stuff going on, I started realizing a lot of things about my childhood. Started cutting out a lot of people. My aunt was all over my Facebook when I first came out, telling me how crazy I was. You know, this is all in your head. You're making this shit up. I'm like, really? Basically, my aunt wanted to stay on my ex-wife's side so that my aunt could still see my kids. She's still there. She goes and visits my kids all the time. I haven't talked to my aunt since a month and a half after Christy left. And you know what? I don't need that in my life. I don't want that around my kids either, but there's nothing I can do at the moment because I really have nothing. I get to see my kids for 30 hours a month. I really have nothing in that. I'm trying to change that, but I mean, it's a crazy mentally mental illness guy fighting her, right? Um but yeah, so I came out and I said I have this. I've been hiding this for this long. I'm trying to get my help. I'm sorry to anyone I was toxic to. I'm sorry for this. I'm sorry for that. If you were toxic to me, I will be removing you from my life. I'm not even playing the game of trying anymore because I played that game. I tried. I pretended. I faked a smile for too long. I'm not doing it anymore. And she went off and went off and off and off. And actually, I have a bunch of texts on this phone from her making fun. Oh, she texted me and had some horrible, horrible things to say, and then she's not very technologically inclined. She thought she was texting Christy, and she was playing both sides basically. She was telling me one thing, but then going and telling her everything that I had said to her. So she was texting Christy, oh this, oh this. He's talking to his mom again. He's dating. He's okay. I see how this is going. Oh, and in that's when she was saying that everything is made up in my head. Well, you know what? You're actually right. Mental illness is up in my head. It's just it wasn't made up. It just wasn't something that could be seen. Um, so started dating. Um, Between Christy and the person I'm with right now, there was 18 girls. Now again, with Christy, my BPD was there. I latched onto her. I we both hated our relationship, but we both stayed. I think she was codependent. I think it shows with the fact that people still do things for her instead of her doing it herself. So that would be why she stayed. I had borderline personality disorder and was afraid of being alone. That's why I stayed. Um, so with those 18 people that I dated, even the very first one after Christie, I was already doing my cognitive behavioral therapy and I was already doing my DBT, my dialectical behavioral therapy. And she was crazy. She was. She was kind of stalkerish. She freaked out about a lot of things. I was doing a med change at one point, and I'm like, you know what? I can't talk to anybody for a few days. I'm uh, I'm going into withdrawal on this one. I'm going into this. I just can't. And she freaked on me. I had a shit ton of messages and this and that from her while I was doing that, and that's when I broke up with her. And that's when I started realizing something. I started realizing I know what I want and I know what I will put up with now because I can do this alone and being alone isn't that scary. And between again Christy and Alicia there was 18 girls. Of those 18 girls I broke up with 14 of them. Two of them broke up with me and the other two were never really formally broken up with. Either they ghosted me or I ghosted them. So it was one and one. But I sat there and I'm like, okay, I broke up with over a dozen girls. I'm not afraid of being alone anymore because I was like, fuck this, I'm not dealing with this shit. And that was something that made me really smile. Um, Now, right near the beginning, for anyone that wasn't here at the beginning, or anyone that's doing the too long didn't watch thing, uh, I had said that I fell in love with a girl in high school and didn't say anything. Now, 18 years later, I can tell you I loved her the entire 18 years. I carried that love through my marriage. I carried that love through the 17 girls I dated. Well, sorry, the 18 girls I dated. I carried that feeling from before I was fucked up to now. And I didn't really know what love was because I hadn't really felt it before. I thought I had felt it, you know. I was telling myself with Christy I loved her. I was telling myself with another girl I loved her. I really didn't because I didn't know what love was. I didn't. I didn't. I now live in Welland. I had moved down to the Niagara region. Welland is in the Niagara region. Um, like I said, the girl I was in love with went up to Thunder Bay. She went up to Lakehead University to do psychology, and then she moved in with her family after her psychology degree, and her family lived in Welland at the time. And she did two other college degrees after that. We ended up finding each other on Plenty of Fish of all places. Um, 18 years after leaving each other's lives, we met each other on Plenty of Fish. Um, yeah, she came up to me and she goes, "Do you know that I had the biggest crush on you in high school? Like, if you had ever said anything to me, I would have been all over you." I'm like, "No, why didn't you tell me?" She goes, "Well, you know, you're the guy. It's up to the guy to do that." I go, "Yeah, this guy had the worst self-esteem and worst self-confidence that you would ever find because he was told his whole life that he would never be able to attract anyone because he's different. He's a freak." She's like, "No, you were the best looking guy in school. I would watch you and this and that." And well, I fell in love with you just talking to you all the time and stuff like that. Um, no, not all the time, but just from talking to her, I fell in love with her. Just I was a wrestling coach and a wrestler, and her cousin was on my team. And I'd tell her cousin, and I'd ask him a lot of questions about her and stuff too. But yeah, so we found each other down here. I'm engaged to marry her, and I actually know what love is now. I'm happy quite often. That being said, BPD doesn't just go away, and neither does major depressive disorder. Uh, our relationship has been tested quite a bit. Uh, I did have a BPD spiral where I did try to push her away. I tried to get her to leave because, you know, in my mind, I figured, hey, I should just do this now because she's going to leave me anyway. It was stupid of me, but it was what happened. I don't even remember what triggered that. But the thing with borderline personality disorder is something small can trigger it. And once it triggers, it's just a spiral. And it's a spiral. And it's a spiral. And you go right until you hit rock bottom. And then you have to build yourself back up again. And you spiral because you got triggered because you weren't quick enough to realize that that trigger was being sent off. And you need to be very mindful all the time of what's going on in your head. You need to be very mindful because you need to be able to slow things down and stop those things when they start. Uh, I've been pretty good at it. This was the first spiral I've had since about 8 months after Christy left. When I first was able to start seeing my kids again. When a court actually demanded I start seeing the kids again. I had a spiral then because it had been 8 months since I had seen them, and I was freaking out. My kids were my life, even though I'd never wanted kids, and I'd never wanted kids because not because I was selfish or this and that. I didn't want kids because I knew what I had gone through as a child, and I didn't want the same shit to happen with them. And I love my kids with all my heart, but it doesn't change the fact that I didn't want them, and that's guilt too. I mean, I'm filled with guilt because I didn't want them. I love them with all my heart. I didn't want them. But I mean, hey, You have to admit to things, right? You have to admit to things and grow and change and everything else. Um, yeah, Boris, I see you. I don't even know where I'm going with all this, to be honest with you now. So she carried a torch for me. She told me she would look for me online every once in a while to see where I was in life. When she found out I was married, she got sad. She was disappointed. She told me disappointed that I was married. Um, she actually worked with my ex-wife at one point. So I mean that was funny because my ex-wife did come home one day and say, "There's a girl from Arnprior at my work," and I'm like, "What's her name?" And she's like, "Alicia," and I'm like, "Alicia Poisson." She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." In my head, I was like, "Oh my God, she's here! Oh my God, she's here!" I had no idea, to be honest with you. I looked her up a few times online myself, but I had no idea she was actually in the region. Uh, I remember she her cousin was getting married again. Her cousin was on my wrestling team. He was getting married. I was the her guest to his wedding, and we had been dating for about a month and a half, and she made it public on Facebook that we were dating. And we get the me being an asshole, me, now that I'm happy and I'm sarcastic and snippy again, I'm like, well, I wonder who the lucky guy could be. And she's like, oh, you. I'm only with you for your dogs, though. Yeah, most people are only with me for my dogs. It's okay. And then her cousin was like, "Oh my God, this makes me so happy." And I go, "What the fuck are you so happy about? You're with my cousin." I don't know if he remembered from back in high school when I talk about her. I don't know. Um, but really, uh, like I said, this relationship has been tested from the BPD spiral. There was I was suicidal again for about a week, and I was suicidal for that week because my meds stopped working. My antidepressants stopped working, and when they stopped working, it hit hard. It hit very hard, and I was in the middle of a lot of things with my ex-wife, with my kids, us just moving in together, losing my house, even trying to figure out how I'm getting to work all the time because I'm a 4 hour walk away from work now. Um, Trying to keep this job because I want my kids to have the benefits that this job gives. Just there was a lot of stress. There was a lot of stress. There was a lot of this. There was a lot of that. Um, and the meds stopped working. So all of that mixed together, I was suicidal again. First time I was suicidal in about 2 years, and that hurt as well. I have a woman that supported me through both of those things. I have a woman that says I'm worth fighting for. I have a woman that says I'm the best thing that's happened to her, and I'm the best thing that's happened to her kids. I have a woman that wants to be there for my kids. Um, I have what I've wanted since I was 18 without even realizing it because I didn't realize I carried that feeling for her that whole time until afterwards. But I have what I wanted, and it's great. And because of her, because of her and things that we've already gone through, that's why I started my therapy again. I knew that, therapy would be something I'd have to go back to here and there. Um, I'm looking at getting into another DBT class. Like I said, I've already done dialectical behavioral therapy. I have 3 dialectical behavioral therapy workbooks. I've already gone through 2 of them. I'm starting my third one. It's going to be a lifelong thing, just trying to get over the trauma from the past. I don't even know why I'm talking about this. Maybe because getting it off your chest is better than holding it in. And if you can touch one person, if you can help one person, make them go and do the things they need to do to change, to fix themselves, it's worth it. Um, people don't like talking about this stuff. I'm Irish. I was brought up Irish. You're not allowed. There is no such thing as mental illness to the Irish. You're not allowed to be mentally ill, which is you're not supposed to talk about it. You're supposed to hide it forever. And it's the reason so much shit happens. I remember having a conversation with a cop one day. Um, Cops were sent to my house several times when I was first ridden off work to deal with my stuff. And anything you had said, right, I would go online and talk about how I felt in the past and how things are going. And they'd call the cops. Oh, he's going to kill himself. And the cop would show up and he'd be trying to take me out of the house. And I'm like, I'm not suicidal. This is what I wrote. And he'd read what I wrote and he goes, yeah, that's not bad. I go, this is why people, and I tell him, I'm like, officer, this is why people don't come out. This is why people hide this shit. Because you come out with it and nobody knows how to take you. Nobody can support you. They just figure you're fucked. You're fucked and we gotta deal with that. No, I'm not fucked. I just need some help. I need some compassion. I need to know people are there. That's what I needed at that time. Because I was completely alone. I didn't have my kids. She had taken my dogs, she had taken my kids, she had taken pretty much all the possessions out of the house, and then I was written off work, so I don't even have money to fucking pay the bills. While she moved out, so she's like, no, all the bills are on you. I'll pay for the van because I have the van, but everything else is you. I'm like, really? And then you're in court and they're trying to force a sale of the house and you're like, okay, well, I've been paying the mortgage for a year and a half. Shouldn't that come off her side of the house? And he goes, no, no, we can't do that because she can say that you owe her rent. I go, what the fuck do you mean I owe her rent? She left and she left me in the house uncontested. How do I owe her rent? He goes, that's just the law. I go, what the fuck do you mean that's just the law? How the fuck is that the law? Like the whole thing is stupid. The whole system's stupid. And then you look at the amount of money I'm paying in child support, and I'm basically gaslit to stay in this area. She was trying to say that no matter what, my kids had to be on the benefit plan that I have right now. If I'm not working at the job I'm at right now, that benefit plan would be like $450 a fucking month. Like it because it's an amazing benefit plan. And then I owe her child support, and I'm like, so you need me to stay here? Well, I need at least a three-bedroom house because I have two boys and a girl. So, or an apartment. I need a three-bedroom for them to come over overnights. And you live in London, so I need them to overnight when I get them. Going, well, three-bedroom is $1,500 here. You take that $1,500, you add my child support, and now I'm at negative $200 a month. Like, I could afford to rent a one-bedroom apartment, but then I can't see the kids. Like this system is weird because the whole system is still set up for 30, 40, 50 years ago when the woman would stay home all the time. So when you broke up, you had to support her completely. Well, you know what? As fucked as my mother was, she worked. As fucked as she worked. Get off your ass and get a job. Why am I paying this much money for two households? Why am I expected to support two households? And I almost wanted to say to the judge when we were in court, I almost wanted to say, you know what? If I'm expected to support two households, just give me the kids. She doesn't have to pay anything then. I have the kids. She doesn't need my money because I have the kids. And I mean, so you're sitting there and you're told all the time that you can't be discriminated against for mental illness. You can't be this, you can't be that. And you're sitting in court and everything you're reading in the court documents is about your mental illness. He has severe mental health issues. He has this, he has that. He admits to being suicidal when he was younger. He admits to, yeah, I admitted to it. Because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to come out and change. You're supposed to come out, accept the shit that you're trying to pretend doesn't exist, and until you accept that stuff, until you accept it and acknowledge it, you can't move past it. Because you're not going to get any better if you're not willing to do the work. You're not going to get any better if you don't want to do the work. So guess what? I wanted to do the work. I wanted to get better. I came out and did the things I needed to do to start that process. And it's being held against me? It's not allowed to be held against me, but it is. Like, that stuff makes no sense that that's what happens to you. That's always what happens to you in these situations. They tell you over and over again, no, nothing's gonna be different. It always fucking is. It always is. Always. Um, And you'll notice that I'm being fairly vague about the case, and I'm being vague about the case because I I was talking on a BDU one time about some stuff that had happened in the case and how I felt about it, and that was complained about in court. Oh, he's talking about this. I don't want my kids to see that. Okay, you're not allowed. You're not allowed to talk about any of the things that go on in this. Okay, well, I'm not talking about the things that are going on in this. I'm talking about the claims that were made against me that are 100% libel because there was so many lies put in that paperwork. But hey, I'm the crazy guy, right? I can't do anything about it. Um, really though, doing this chat to say for the most part that you can get through things. There's always a way out of the storm, even if you don't think there is. For me, for a long time, I thought the way out of the storm was suicide, and it wasn't. It was reaching out, getting help, doing the therapy I needed, actually being actively involved in the therapy because there were people that were in the therapy. There were people that were at DBT that weren't actively involved in it. They weren't really trying, and you would see it every week. You would go because DBT is a year. It's a year of your life. You go. Well, the first one I went to was 3 hours. It was 3 hours, and it was every week for a year. So what, 168 hours? And you would go in there and you would see people that weren't trying to do it at all, weren't trying to do the work, weren't trying to be mindful, weren't trying to use their wise mind, they weren't trying to do anything, right? And every week you would go back and you would see the people that were trying and them actually succeeding and getting better, and you would see the people that weren't trying and you would see that they were floundering where they were. And that was my problem, was I was floundering for a long time. And it took it took a long time to get to where I'm at now. Um, I do, and and then I get asked questions like, well, if you had all these problems, why do you do the charity work you do? Why do you do the Santa Claus for children? Why do you do the beer festival for the Ronald McDonald House? Why do you do? In all honesty, I can tell you from working with other people that did charitable work that a lot of times the people that do the most charitable work are the most fucked up in the head and hate themselves the most and this and that. And they're doing that work to try to feel better about themselves, to try and feel something that they're lacking. And it's not really the best way to go about it, but it's what happens. It is what it is, right? It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Um, and that is the thing. It makes you feel better about yourself. It makes you, at least a little while, forget about the things that are going on. Seeing somebody else happy makes you happier. And I mean that's just it, right? It's what can I do to alleviate the pain? What can I do to alleviate the horror show I live in, the trauma I live in? I didn't sleep well for years. I thought it was insomnia. The doctor said it insomnia because I didn't tell them about my mental health problems. And I legitimately thought it was insomnia. It wasn't. It was the weight of all the guilt, all the shame, all the anger, all the rage that I held inside for all those years. It was knowing that I was in a relationship with somebody that I didn't want to be with. It was it was knowing that there didn't seem to be any way out. I was in such financial debt and I was so empty inside that I didn't know how to do anything about it. And her actions and her words were reinforcing the words of my mother and all the men that she had been with and all the kids I went to high school with and grade school. It was reinforcing all the negativity that I had grown up with. It's taken me a long time. Basically, from the moment she left until now, it's taken for me to start accepting anything about myself and seeing anything positive about myself. Even after the depression was gone, I still wasn't seeing positivity in my own life, in things that were going on with me. And you know what? At the same time, I was okay with that because that empty sadness wasn't there anymore. Anguish was there, anger was there, but that emptiness was gone. And I really thought I was getting to the point where I wouldn't need antidepressants anymore. I was really starting to think that maybe it wasn't major depressive disorder. Maybe it was one of the prolonged mild depressions that just built because it's been there for so long. And I was legitimately going to ask my doctor to not do the meds anymore. And then when they stopped working and that emptiness came right back, I was like, oh shit, yeah, my brain's fucked. I'm not processing chemicals properly. Yay. Um, I mean, I'm now accepting the fact that I'm probably going to be on meds most of my life. I was up to the highest dosage of what I'm on, and the highest dosage, if I even get like 50 milligrams more in my system, I die. So I have to. Some days, if I forget if I took my meds or not, I just don't take them, and I might not have had them. My only side effect with these meds is memory loss, and that's horrible because I was diagnosed eidetic long, long ago. Sure, I've had a lot of concussions, so things get fuzzy and I forget things. But up until all those concussions, I could remember everything. And you know what? The biggest problem with having an eidetic memory is when you are somebody with borderline personality disorder, and you lash out with words to hurt people before they can hurt you. He can remember every fucking thing you said. Like I said, I'm not innocent in my relationship with my ex-wife. My ex-wife isn't innocent, even though she'll tell you she was. However, I still feel shame and I still feel guilt for some of the things I said to her. Having borderline personality disorder wasn't an excuse for the things I said. It explains the things I said. It explains the action. Can you not kick me, you fucking stupid dog? It explains the actions I did. It doesn't excuse them. There is no excuse for them. I should have gotten help sooner. I should have not cared that she turned me down when I asked for help and went and got help myself. I should have done a lot of things that I didn't do. And that angers me that I let it happen. But at the same time, it is what it is, and I can't go back. I've had the most amazing relationship in my life. The only one I've had that has been filled with love and support on both sides. And at the same time, knowing now that she had the same feelings I had for her back in high school, I wish I could go back. I wish I could go back and tell her then. But at the same time, I sit here and I think I was suffering from borderline personality disorder at that time. My brain was starting to not function properly back then. My depression was seeping in. Who knows if we would have lasted? Who knows if things would have happened? I don't know. She doesn't know. You never know what would have happened. Her thing was, yeah, maybe we would have broken up. She goes, but I truthfully believe you're my soulmate, and we probably would have gotten back together. I'd like to believe that too. I do. I would like to believe that. We talked about maybe I wouldn't have spiraled as far down the rabbit hole as I did. And that's true too. Maybe I wouldn't have. Maybe I would have. Maybe I would have hurt somebody. Maybe I would have said the same things I said to Christy to her. And instead of just feeling guilt, I went and did the things that I thought about doing. Because now there was anguish because I hurt somebody that I loved. I don't know. That's the problem with being able to reflect, right? Trying to figure out things like that. And you can't sit there. What did you do, Boris? You can't sit there and second guess things. You can't. You can't sit there and wonder if you could have changed something, because that just starts the whole spiral again. It just starts the second guessing again. It just starts everything again. And you don't want that to happen. You have to just move forward. You have to move forward with your life and accept that you made mistakes and you have to learn from them and not do them again. That's one of the biggest problems with any mental health issue is you don't always learn from those mistakes. A lot of times you just keep that same cycle going. And I mean, what did you do? I kept doing that same cycle. And I know a lot of people that do the same cycle themselves. It's not something good. Come on, boy. Get up here. Or don't. Stay standing like that. Whatever. It it's an unfortunate thing, and you need to be able to self-reflect, but at the same time you need to be able to understand that you can't change the past. Even if you want to change the past, you can't change the past, and that's the problem. I sometimes have that difficulty. I look in her eyes, and I really wish I could go back and change the past, because she went through some shit too. And I think maybe if we had been together earlier, we both wouldn't have gone through that shit. But at the same time, maybe we would have. You never know, and that's the thing. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what would happen, and you have to accept that and move forward. But it's a difficult thing. It is a difficult thing, especially for me, because although through my therapy I've gotten rid of most of my symptoms to a point where if I went to do a baseline test right now, they wouldn't say I had borderline personality disorder anymore, because you need to have a certain amount of those symptoms to be considered borderline. The symptoms that I still have are extremely strong. And it's an unfortunate thing that I haven't been able to break those. Um, and I still have some trust issues. I trust her implicitly, but it doesn't change the fact that I do still have some trust issues, because I grew up with a woman that would cheat on her husbands with the next guy, basically. There was never very much time between men with her being my mother. Um, so I had trust issues with that too. And then to know that, you know, that woman would let the things happen to her kids that happened, it gave me trust issues as well. To know that the woman that was supposed to love and cherish you and help rear you into a good human being had said the things she had said, it gave me trust issues. It gave me a lot of self-esteem and self-confidence issues. Those are just starting to get built. I know a lot of times when I'm doing the review and this and that, it looks like I'm extremely confident. I'm not. I'm not at all. I had zero self-confidence and zero self-esteem for a good portion of my life. I still have very low of both, but they're growing, and they're growing. And I can thank having a supportive partner for that. Somebody that is there for me and whose whole family's there for me. When she would be at work while my meds weren't working, her mom and dad would come over to check on me. Like, I don't have a family that would have ever done that. When I was off work for 7 months, I saw 2 people from my work. 2 people came to check on me. And of the entire cast for the Albino Rhino beer review, 2 members of the cast came to check on me. One of them was somebody I hadn't seen in years. That's how Boychuk's back in my life. And the punter. Those were the 2 that came to check on me out of my good friends, apparently. And that's the other thing you get too, right? When you come out with any mental health thing, so many people run. They run and they hide. They don't know how to deal with it. They don't want to deal with it. They want it to not be there. They want to pretend it's not there. They want to be there on your side when you're pretending to be okay because they want to have the good times. They don't want to do the bad times. They don't want to be there. They don't want to support you for those. Why they don't want to support you for those? There's lots of theories on that, but I mean, I I, I don't get it. I really don't. Why call yourself a friend to somebody if you're not going to be a friend to them? Why call yourself a friend to anybody if you're not going to be there for the good and the bad? And always get the argument too, oh, well, everybody has a busy life, everybody has problems. That's great. You know how many times I've been there for people? Do you know how many times I've been there for people? A few times you need somebody there with you, and you don't get it when you need it. And it's an unfortunate side effect of the way our culture is, the way our life has gone, the way our society has gone. We feel like we're connected to everybody because we have things. We have Facebook, we have YouTube, we have Pinterest, we have Instagram, we have Twitter. In everything I probably have 15,000 followers combined in everything. When I needed somebody, there was 2 people there for me. 2. That's the problem with our society right now. We're too electronically inclined, and I'm sitting here on here talking about this shit. I've been there for lots of people. There's people that are viewers of my channel that have given me that I've given my phone numbers to, and they've given me their phone numbers. And when they need somebody to talk to because they're having mental health issues, they're able to call me and talk to me because I've been through a lot of the same things as them. I can give them some insight. I can send them to some of the right places. I can tell them some of the things that they have to say or do to try and get some help. So yeah, to some extent, some of this stuff is good. You can still reach people with some of it, but a lot of it is just saddening. And I can't say I hate the internet as well because I mean, it's how the girl I fell in love with when I was 18 is back in my life. If it wasn't for the internet, I wouldn't have seen her again. But no, Redbeard, I'm really not. I'm really not. I don't know if you're still around, but yeah, that's a incorrect statement, sir. Incorrect. I appreciate that you think it. Still an incorrect statement. Um, and like I said, Redbeard, that was a lot of that stuff was years ago. I did have that week long period where I was worried about it. My pills weren't working. I had to take time off work. I took a week unpaid off because I just couldn't. I couldn't go to work. I couldn't be around people because my anxiety was through the roof. I haven't had anxiety in 2 years now. I haven't had anxiety since my therapy and all that. But when the pill stopped working and the depression came in again, the anxiety flew. And having anti-anxiety pills, I've never taken them. Never taken them because I didn't want to. I was scared of them, and I wanted to be able to push myself to do it, not have a chemical do it, especially because I already was relying on a chemical for my depression. I didn't want to rely on a chemical for my anxiety as well. I took it. I took it during that time where my pills weren't working because I needed it. I was anxious that I was going to do something to myself. I was anxious that either Alicia or her daughter were going to walk in the house and I wasn't going to be around anymore because that's how dark my thoughts were at the time. I was anxious just being home alone. Called out for help then too, and again, the only people that came were Alicia's family whenever they could. But that being said, I took that pill. I'll never take it again. I laid on the floor twitching for a while. Um, I went downstairs to take a nap. My kids were here at the time when I took it, and I went downstairs to take a nap. Alicia and her mom were upstairs, and I couldn't nap because I had tremors throughout my entire body. Pills work again. Therapy's going again. Anxiety pills are gone. I'm going to be. They're all sitting on the counter, taking them to the pharmacy to get disposed of, because I ain't touching those things again. Um, and again, the anxiety only came because the pills stopped working. Up until then, I hadn't had anxiety at all about anything again. There was no panic attacks. There was no anxiety attacks. There was nothing. There was still some BPD shit every once in a while, but it that will always be there. That game of maintaining, of managing that will always be there, and I just have to stay on top of it. But between my kids and her, I want to stay on top of it. I have the people in my life that I care about, and I won't let this shit damage that anymore. I'll never say that again. Nothing. I'll never have a breakout because I will. I will slip. I will fall. Thing is, I'll get back up. There's nothing wrong with having a problem. There's something wrong with not asking for help. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help. But there's something wrong with not accepting that help. I may fall 30 times from now until the end of my life. But for the 5 kids in my life that I love, and for the woman in my life that I love, and for the in laws in my life that in 9 months have been more parents to me than my own, I will keep getting back up. I will keep striving to be a better person, and I will keep striving to change the outcome of this. I'm already ahead in the statistics. Uh, a good portion of the people with BPD do commit suicide and succeed. A lot of times, by the time they're my age, they're gone. A lot of times, by the time they're my age, if they're still here, they've attempted 3 to 6 times. I had 2 attempts, and I had them both when I was younger. I don't know what kept me around, but things did. I know exactly how that is, Chris. And yeah, I had those problems myself. I did. I During my time where I was at my darkest, I had to be up every day to watch my kids because I worked nights and my ex-wife worked days. I would use all my sick days. I would use all my vacation time. I would use everything because there was a lot of times I couldn't go in. I couldn't be around people. And there was a lot of times I couldn't even wake up and be with my kids. And I mean that's guilt that eats at me still. I was a zombie to my kids for a good portion of their lives. I'm trying to make up for that now, but I lost a lot of the formidable years with them. I lost a lot of the formidable things with them. I lost a lot of the firsts. I didn't get to see my daughter's first day of school because my ex-wife was gone and took the kids and was in another city, and I wasn't allowed to see them at the time. I didn't get to be there for my son's first birthday, my youngest son's, because he was gone with my ex-wife and I wasn't allowed to be there. I'm not going to get to see my son's first day of school. I'm not going to get to see my other son's first day of high school. I'm not going to get to see a lot of things. And that destroys me inside. But on top of that, it destroys me that my depression, my anxiety, my borderline personality disorder made me lose time that I did have with them. And again, there was times I couldn't get out of bed, and I would ask my ex-wife to call in sick to work. I'm like, I need you to call in sick to work because I just can't do this. I can't do. And she would freak on me. I'm using my sick days for me. You have a suicidal husband who is stressed to the max, doesn't want to live, and is asking you for this. Call in sick so that he can, because he can't get out of bed. And she wouldn't, of course. She'd go into work and leave me alone with the kids. Some days I'd muster enough strength to get out of bed and take my son to school. Some days I'd call in sick for him, and they would both sit in the bedroom with me and watch TV while I rocked back and forth and told myself something has to change, something's got to give. I've always questioned a few things in my darkest times. I questioned how do you kill the demon inside yourself without killing yourself? And then subsequently on top of that, how do you kill yourself without killing those that you love the most? Because there really is no way to do that to yourself without hurting others. And I didn't want to hurt anybody. So I would wake up, I would survive, I'd go to sleep. I'd wake up, I'd survive, I'd go to sleep. And that was my life for a good portion of those 14 years. Were there some times that maybe I had some happy moments with my ex-wife? Sure. Sure, there was some times that I had some happy moments with her. They were few and far between. All I've had here is happy times. The BPD and the depression has ruined some of those times. We were out at our Christmas party, at my work's Christmas party, and I was texting back and forth with my ex-wife, and that had me on edge. And then Alicia had said something that just, it triggered it. And I shut down completely. And I'm like, let's just go home. I can't do this. And as we were going home, I was running through my head all these things, all the skewed thinking. I had let things slip. My guard had been down, my mindfulness had been down, and I didn't catch things growing while I was texting back and forth. And like I said, it slipped. It cracked, the armor cracked, and the BPD shit flew out. And as we were driving home from Niagara to Welland, we didn't say a thing to each other. Well, a few things were said, and I being me, locked on to some of the ways the words were laid out. Not the context she was putting them in, but where my mind was at the time, I put them into the context I wanted them to be. And I lashed out at that. And we fought for a few hours once we got home. I got screamed at because I was in rocking back and forth suicidal mode. I was also in the get the fuck out of my life mode. I was in the get her out now before she leaves anyway and hurts me anyway mode. And it wasn't fair to her. She shouldn't have had to deal with that. It wasn't fair to her at all. But she knew what was happening. She understood it. That's the only good thing about her schooling is she understood it. She understood exactly what was going on. She screamed at me at the top of her lungs to try and break me out of it at one point. And it didn't break me out of it, it pushed me further. And you know what broke me out of it all? Getting a phone call from my mom saying that her daughter had to go to the hospital. She was having breathing problems. And the second I heard that, I snapped out of everything. Another way I knew just how much I love her and those kids, that it snapped me right out of a BPD spiral. I was on the mudroom floor. It was like negative 15 outside. The mudroom is insulated, but there's no heat. And I was lying on the mudroom floor in my underwear, hoping, I don't know what I was hoping. Maybe that I'd fall asleep and wouldn't wake up. I don't know what I was hoping. But I was out there completely had given up because I had spiraled that far. And the second I heard that Harlow had to go to the hospital, I was up, I was dressed, I was ready to go. All the shit that had gone on was gone. It snapped me out of that stuff right away. My family, be it my 3 biological children or my 2 children that weren't mine by birth, but are mine, are the most important things to me. That woman that supports me, that woman that loves me, is the most important thing to me. This dumb dog beside me is the most important thing to me. These are the things that I grasp onto. And like I said, Chris, I understand exactly what you're talking about because I felt that. And unfortunately, there's not enough people that understand it. They think, well, why don't you just snap out of it? Why don't you just do this? Why don't you just do that? Well, you can't. You can't just snap out of it usually. Luckily for me, that wasn't my depression that hit. That was my BPD. Because all BPD does is, it's a personality disorder. My synapses are firing wrong. I have skewed thinking. I have this, I have that. When my depression's in, my depression's in. And there isn't much taking me back from that. Luckily, we had found a med that worked. I was on Cipralex first. That was the very first med they put me on, Cipralex. I couldn't get hard. I had impotency problems. I could not get a hard on Cipralex, and I was dating at the time because I was single. My ex-wife had gone, and I'm like, no, this just can't happen because that was another thing that had been drilled into my head for most of my life was I would never please a woman, and if I can't get hard, I can't please a woman, right? Like, and I mean, I remember freaking about that. And I went to my doctor. I had called my doctor up, and I'm like, I need off this med. They're like, why? I go, because it's giving me male problems. They're like, what kind of male problems? So I tell the receptionist, and she goes, oh, okay, we'll get you in tomorrow. I'm like, okay. So I go in, and I sit down in my doctor's office, and she comes in, and she's like, okay, Chad, what's the problem? I go, you know what the problem is. She goes, what do you mean? I go, it's on your piece of paper. That's the problem. I need off these meds. She goes, well, I can't help you unless you tell me the problem. You have to say it with your mouth. You have to say the words, Chad. You have to say the words. Like, I can't fucking get hard, okay? Get me off these fucking pills. She goes, but I thought you're single. You don't need to get... Shut the fuck up and get me off these fucking pills. And we went to the next pill. It was another SSRI. And it did the same thing. So then we stopped doing the SSRIs. And we went to a dopamine receptor one. And that one, my heart started racing way too much. And then we tried another dopamine one. And actually, that's the one I'm on now. And the only side effect I have with that one, it's Wellbutrin. Wellbutrin's what I'm on, and I'm on 450 milligrams of Wellbutrin a day. I'm also taking an over-the-counter one that's supposed to help with serotonin, and I do that because they still don't know if the SSRIs I was on damaged my serotonin uptake because I do have some emotional problems now, emotional regulation problems, and it's not BPD related. It's just there's sometimes where I'm happy but I can't express it. So they have me on the 5-HTP, which is over the counter. It's a natural serotonin booster basically. But yeah, the Wellbutrin on the 450s of that. My only side effect with it is memory loss, and like I said, it's something that's hard to get used to because I had an eidetic memory, but at the same time, I can handle if all I have to worry about is memory loss for like an hour and a half to 2 hours after I take a pill, I can handle that. It sucks when I can't remember where I put my badge or I put my keys or this and that, but hey, I can handle that over some of the things I've had to deal with. And I mean that's the thing as well, Chris. When you are full of depression, when you're full of anxiety, it's putting on a happy face. People don't realize it's a mask you wear. You wear a mask. You can't be truthful. You can't let them know how you feel, or you at least feel you can't let them know how you feel, because you don't know how people are going to take it. So you put on that mask. You put on that mask of happiness, and you go out. And that's why when somebody ends up committing suicide, or somebody comes out of the closet with their mental health issues, people are so surprised, and they're so surprised because we are such good actors. We are such good actors because we've learned how to put on that happy face. See, he doesn't put on a happy face. You put on that happy face and you walk out. You put on that happy face and you walk out because that's what you have to do. And unfortunately, I'm not allowed to be sad about something anymore. Because people at work know that I have depression, they know I have borderline personality disorder. So if I go to work and I'm disappointed by something, I'm I'm sad about something. I'm not going to say depressed because depression is the illness, but I'm sad about something. I'm worked up about something. If I show that, they start looking at me funny. They start questioning things. They start deciding if they have to call the cops to check in on me. I can't ever be sad about something again. I'm not allowed to be. I cried about my kids one time, about how little I see my kids. And I got pulled into an office to be checked on in case I was suicidal. I'm like, how can I, like, how can you guys want people to come forward? How can you guys want people to admit to problems? How can you guys want people to try and learn how to deal with their life and deal with everything else that society has put on us and everything else that is going on when we can't? Because once you know, we're not allowed to have any feelings anymore. We have to be happy all the time. Even people that don't have mental health issues are not happy all the fucking time. The difference is they're allowed to not be happy all the fucking time. Me, I have to pretend to be happy. And again, if I don't, Coast is at my door. If I don't, I'm written off of work. If I don't, the list of things that happen. If I don't, maybe I'll be taken to court to not see my kids anymore because I wasn't happy, and I was suicidal at one point in my life, and I have depression, and I have, like, it's a saddening reality that because your brain doesn't process chemicals properly, your whole life is fucked because you admitted that your brain doesn't do that, that you weren't hiding it. And you're not hiding it because you want to try and help somebody that is hiding it. It's it's akin to when men and women came out of the closet as gays years and years and years ago. It's akin to, and I know I'm going to get somebody that is homosexual angry with me, but it's akin to it in the fact that even now it's still not looked upon happily. It's still not looked upon in a fully positive manner. But the amount of hatred, the amount of prejudice, the amount of fear that existed for people with mental health years and years ago was about the same as, it was a different genre of fear and hatred and everything, but it was kind of the same. The only difference was you didn't usually see anybody getting depressed beat, right? I mean, you'd see them getting forced into homes and stuff. Oh, this guy has depression. He must actually be schizophrenic. Let's put him in the mental health wards. Like, I've I've been brought into a mental health ward once or twice. I can tell you right now, there are some people that have severe problems, and not all mental health illnesses are equal. And there are some that are dangerous, and there are some that can be worse than others. You know what? I've never wanted to hurt somebody else. The only person I've ever wanted to hurt was myself. But to take me and put me in a ward uh, that is so full that I'm sitting in a hallway outside of 3 rooms with people that are violent, that doesn't make me feel better about myself. and to get brought to that ward because you're depressed that you've lost your kids, you have no money because you're written off work, you're trying to pay the entire house by yourself because your ex-wife is gone, and all that stuff. That's just not right. It's not right that that's the way things go. See, Killer Miller, I am sad for the loss that your family had, but I completely and wholeheartedly disagree with you that suicide is selfish, and I am actually agitated that people say that suicide is selfish because this is the thing. We're not doing it because we're like, you know what? This is the only way people will see us. This is the only. You know why most people commit suicide? Well, even the people that I've talked to, the people that I've dealt with BPD, the people I've dealt with depression, most people are suicidal not because they want you to see them, not because this, not because that, because they truthfully think everybody will be better off without them. They're trying to alleviate the pain you have of having to deal with them because they don't know how to deal with themselves. They don't know how to be proper. And they know that it's bringing anguish to people. They know it's not just hurting themselves, it's hurting others. And their only thought at the time is if I do this, these people can be happier. They don't have to deal with me. They don't have to worry about me. They don't have to do this. They don't have to. Really, to an extent, it is in a lot of suicidal people's minds the most unselfish thing they could do. And the thought that you just have to be strong for your family is kind of a selfish thought in itself because really you have to be weak. You have to have that weakness to go out and get the help you need. And I mean, that's what it really comes down to. It's you're trying your best to you're trying your best to survive. You're trying your best to regulate. You're trying your best to figure out how to make something happen, and you don't know how. And you're watching what you're doing hurting everybody around you, and it just eats away on the inside. It eats away on the inside until you're at a point where you're like, this is the best thing I can do. It's the only thing I have left that I can do. And unfortunately, that's what it is. And you can say you just need family and friends, and that would be very helpful. The unfortunate part is you don't really have that. Like I said, I'm connected to over 15,000 people. When I was at my bottom, I had two people from work and two people from the beer review that showed up. Four people of the 15,000. Four people. I thought I was close friends with a lot of those people. I thought I had friends everywhere. But they were only there when they needed me. They were only there when I could do something for them. When I came out and admitted to where I was in my life, I admitted to the things that had happened. I admitted to the things I had tried to do in my past. I admitted to why I was like this. I talked about all the trauma of my childhood. I talked about the emotional abuse. I talked about the psychological abuse. I talked about the physical abuse. I talked about how it was going on for over a decade. Nobody would come no matter what because they didn't want to deal with it. They didn't want to look at me at that time. One of the guys used to come out with me all the time and then completely had nothing to do with me while I was having my problems. The second I went back to work, he wanted me to go out again. Let's go drinking. I don't want to drink anymore. I drink still to an extent. I do some reviews here and there, but I don't drink like I used to. And like I said at the beginning, I did the beer review to begin with to get away from my ex-wife, to get away from the life that I hated. It was my way out. I drank a lot. a lot of the time, and I did it to have somewhere to go. Now, I won't deny that, unfortunately, a lot of people don't think of the consequences, and a lot of people don't think of what happens. Who's going to find them? Um, Again, the only reason I didn't commit suicide when I was going to attempt every single night for those 2 years was because I was in my house and my kids were in my house. I didn't need my kids to find me. I legitimately thought about doing things some nights when I was on my walk home because my kids wouldn't have found me. But when I was in that house, I couldn't. I couldn't because they were there. And I couldn't because it would stain that house that was their home. And some people can't stop it though. Some people see it as that's where they have to do it. That's where it's going to happen. Yes, Chris, I agree. There are exceptions to what we were talking about with Killer Miller. And I mean, there's always extenuating circumstances. There always is. But you can't have a blanket statement like it's selfish. Again, there's a lot of people that it, again, is the most unselfish thing they can do. I know exactly where you're going with that, Chris. And I mean, that's the thing. I like my beer a lot. I like the taste of it. Uh, for a good portion of the time when I was first doing all my therapy, I was buying a lot of non alcoholic beer just because of the taste. I was buying the PC Red and I was buying the Blonde Brew and stuff like that that actually tasted like beer because I wanted that taste and that's all I cared about at the time. Um, it's not a healthy thing. I haven't touched hard liquor in years. Um, 5 years now I haven't touched hard liquor, maybe 6. I'll never touch hard liquor again. I used to love scotch, but my alcohol suicide attempt was with hard liquor, and I won't touch the stuff. I won't have it around. I won't have it near me. And I'll never have it near me again. I was actually at that wedding that I went to with Alicia. Her brother kept harassing me to have a shot of scotch with him. He's like, let's do a shot of scotch. I just bought it. I'm like, no. He goes, let's do a shot. No. And then he goes and buys it anyway. Here it is. You got to do it. I'm like, look, man. I attempted to commit suicide with hard liquor. I will not touch hard liquor ever in my life. You can do something else with that shot of scotch. I ain't doing it. I don't think he knew what to say to that. But it is what it is. So I've been going on for a while now. I didn't expect this to be this long. I thought I'd just talk about how things started, where they went, things that happened, and I'd be done. And I kept going. I guess really, like I said earlier, this was to basically say there are people out there that understand. You can always reach out to somebody that understands, and I'm always available to talk to somebody. Um, I do work weird hours, so sometimes it's not always immediate that I'm there, but I'm there for anybody that needs to talk, anybody that needs to vent, anybody that wants to just lay something out. We all need somebody that can understand us and somebody that can support us. And I'm yeah, what was I going to say there? And I'm there if it's needed. Um, Life happens. Life will always happen. Shit happens in life. Shit happens that damages us. I don't think anyone gets through childhood without some type of trauma. Unfortunately, some of us are predispositioned to personality disorder. Some of us are predispositioned to actual mental illnesses. Like I said, I'm almost 100% certain that my mother has a form of borderline personality disorder as well. Um, my son is being treated for some stuff right now. He's way too young to be on the meds he's on, and the meds aren't really changing anything, which would make me think it wasn't chemical. It's more personality related, and I have it. I'm again pretty sure my mother has it, and if it though personality disorders aren't biological per se because they're trauma based, they do have correlations in science that if some member of your family has a personality disorder, you're more prone to get that personality disorder because what it is your brain building different neural pathways so that your synapses shoot in the wrong direction in the wrong ways. You think your thinking is skewed. You see things differently, and if your brain is susceptible to that, it's easier for you to get it. And I see the things he went through already in his young life, and it mimics a lot of what I went through. Not the physical trauma. He hasn't really been having physical trauma, but he has had emotional and he has had psychological traumas that he's gone through. Some of them based by me, some of them based by his mother, some of them based by other people. Again, I'm not blameless in everything that happened. I had borderline personality disorder. I had major depressive disorder, and I didn't treat either of them. And again, it's not an excuse. It's just a explanation. It's an unfortunate explanation. It's unfortunate that I wasn't man enough to go and get help by myself until I was by myself. It's and I mean I sit back and I think about it. And if Christy had even said, "Okay, let's go get help, and I'll support you," I don't even know if I would have done it. I don't know. I know I wanted her help, but I knew all along that I didn't really have feelings for her. I knew along that our relationship wasn't going to work. So would her support have really made me want to do the work I needed to do? Because her leaving and taking the kids is what made me do the things I needed to do. Me going, no, no, this isn't happening. My kids are going to have me in their life. I am not letting the same things happen to them that happened to me. So, I mean, in truth, I really have to thank her for leaving because it helped me. It made me do the things I needed to do. And like I said, I don't know for sure if I would have done them if she had stayed. I do not know at all if I would have done them. I'd like to think I would have, but I don't know. I don't know. It's such a weird thing to admit to, too, right? That you don't know if you would have done it or not. It is what it is. Life throws curveballs, life throws you lemons, life throws you this, life throws you that, and you have to make your decisions on what to do. Hello, Gabriel. How are you? What's my phone battery at right now? 10%. So we're going to be getting offline very, very soon. And I hear the daughter rolling around in her crib, and I have to be up at 8 a.m. So we will be offline very soon. Um, yeah, it's been a long time since I've done a heart to heart. There's been a lot of things on my chest for a long time. Uh, yeah, Chris. BPD is a personality disorder, so that's all therapy based. It's not meds, but I do take meds for the depression, and like I said earlier, I've been on a bunch of different things. They had me on Prozac at one point. They had me on Cipralex. They had me on oh, what were the other ones? They had me on oh fuck. I'm trying to think what the other SSRIs and stuff were. I have the list over there. Well, the one that worked, and that's the reason why I can't remember them all, and I'd have to look at the list. The one that worked is the Wellbutrin, and my side effect with Wellbutrin is memory loss, and it really sucks again for somebody that had an eidetic memory to have memory loss. But between the concussions and those meds, I'm losing a lot up here. I have a hard time forming. I have a hard time forming things in my mind. Like I used to be able to have every step of something ready in my head, and say I was debating, I would have everything they could say in a debate in my head and what my next thought would be. I could never be on a debate team now because it just takes too long for my mind to process things. And then between the dialectical behavioral therapy and the cognitive behavioral therapy and things like that, I slow my mind down regularly anyway to try and actually make sure that what I'm about to say is what I want to say. So mix that with the memory loss, and yeah, it ain't all that great. Now, like I said earlier, I am on the very highest amount of Wellbutrin I'm able to be on. Wellbutrin's basically the poor man's crack. It is an amphetamine, so at some point, my body will reject it, and I'll have to play something else. Um, what it is I'm going to be on after this, I don't know. Um, there's a long list of things that the doc wants to try together. Um, She even talked about going back to Cipralex, but I can tell you right now, with the sex life I'm having, I ain't going back on a drug that like makes it so that I can't get hard. Not gonna happen. Uh, yeah, yeah, I'm, yeah, that's not just not happening. Um, life, life is ups and downs, and my buddy Al has always said it best: life is suffering. And unfortunately, it's not even the depression talking when I say this, but I agree with him. Life is suffering. Life is suffering and finding a way to deal with that suffering. For me, I suffer with not seeing my kids enough. I suffer with the vision problem. I suffer with the pigment problem. I suffer with memories. I suffer with memories from my childhood. You know, the way I deal with those pains is my dogs, is Alicia, is the two kids that are here. Um, I was working out all the time for a while, and then things happened in court that stressed me out, and I stopped. And I really have to get back into working out again because I had lost 120 pounds. I was looking good. I was feeling strong. I was getting back into competition shape, and then things happened, and my competition shape is gone. My arms are nothing like they were when I was working out again, and I just have to start again because that idea of building mastery is a great thing for people with depression. You need to find something you're good at, and you need to, or something, not even that you're good at, something that you enjoy doing, and you need to do that thing. You need to make sure that you're doing that thing because that helps you want to get out of bed. That helps you build that positiveness, that excitement. That I didn't have anything until I started working out again. I really didn't. I had no desire for anything. I started building my mastery again. I knew that I wanted to compete again. I knew all that stuff, and things started exploding. Uh, Feel good chemicals exploding all over in my head, and I can't have done that for nothing. I have to start working again to get back to that point because I've let it disappear. I've let it dissipate, and I'm angry at myself for doing that. All my weights are downstairs. I actually worked out twice last week, and that was it. But that twice last week was the first two times in a month and a half. And I mean, the endorphins you build doing working out help combat a lot of things as well. Um, I was doing the keto diet for a long time as well, because sugar is apparently extremely bad for both depression and for personality disorders. Sugar is basically a drug, as most of us know, and so I cut all carbs out, and I was feeling great. I wasn't drinking beer. I wasn't doing anything, and then I realized, as good as I feel, I don't really have a life because I can't do anything. I can't go out with my friends and just grab a beer. I can't go out with my friends to a restaurant and order something normally. I can't. I I had to find a balance, and I was balancing it for a while. I was balancing between very low carbs and exercise and all that quite well. And then I fucked up and ate an entire cheesecake. And after I ate that entire cheesecake, I haven't been able to get off fucking sugar again. So I gotta bunker down. I gotta actually get strong and get off the sugar again. Even if I don't stop carbs completely, I need to get off the sugar because the sugar makes me feel horrible. And I know the sugar makes me feel horrible. I mean, the 5 minutes after I eat that cheesecake is fucking amazing. And then it's horrible for like the next 2 days. Um, anyway, guys, my battery is now at 3%, so I gots to go. Thank you for watching. Like I said, it's easy to get a hold of me if you really want to. Um, and yeah, we'll do more heart to hearts on a more regular basis. Hopefully, more positive things than where we're at right now. Because, hey, life is turning around. It took a long time, it was slow going, but it's turning around, and that's something that excites me greatly. Anyway, guys, thank you. Bye. Good night, Chris.